When you stepped into Joe's office, did he go crazy?
Yeah, it was phenomenal. Yeah, I mean, Joe Weider was there, man. Like Chris said, you go in the office, you see all the Remington
Yeah.
statues. You've been there before, right, Dave? Have
Yeah.
you ever
Yeah.
been there?
Yep.
See the Remington statues.
Yep.
You see, all the paintings. He had big paintings of Arnold, Lou Ferrigno,
Yeah.
and Columbo and everything, and Frank Zane hanging up. So you're waiting, down in the lobby, to go up, and then you go up, and then you got to wait again, upstairs. Your heart starts beating, boom, 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 boom. You're this young kid looking around like this. You're like, is this real? Wow, I'm a bodybuilder. This is real. I want to meet Joe Weider. And then before Joe came out, I just heard the voice. You got that famous voice that everybody talks about.
Kevin.
And it was Mr. Joe Weider, man. And I stood up, man. And I was just mesmerized that I had made it, And he took me back to the office. And he's like, show me what you look like, I said, huh? Yeah, take a shirt. I hit some poses, and I took my shirt off. I started hitting poses, and I was nervous. I'm like, God, I'm hitting poses because I'm thinking about him being with Arnold Schwarzenegger and all those great pictures that those guys had, and I'm looking at the pictures and stuff. And Joe's like, no, not like that. Come on, let me show you, right?
So, he's teaching you how to pose. That's great.
He came over, man, and he started moving my arms up and adjusting me, telling me turn this way and turn that way and suck it in here and blow it out here. We must have spent like 3 hours, and then we went out to lunch together, man. And he says, you're a great champion. I've been watching you. For some reason, Joe always knows everything about you.
Yeah.
And you don't even know it.
That's great. He loved bodybuilding. That's why he was, that was his job.
And that's another thing that me and Richie was talking about yesterday is the passion that Joe Weider has, man.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable, and I do miss him. And Joe Weider he loved the bodybuilders. He loved the sport. And we did photo shoots. Joe was backstage at all the photo shoots. If you had a photo shoot with Chris Lund, no matter who it was, Bill Dobbins or whatever, he would show up at those photo shoots and make sure that you're looking your best and you're hitting your best shots and everything. So not only were we bodybuilders, we were also, they taught us about marketing. They taught us about, in those contracts, we were held liable of carrying yourself as a champion, not only on the stage, but off the stage, how you treat your fans and not getting into any trouble, out in the real life. So we had to pretty much carry ourselves because we were Weider athletes and not everybody got a Weider contract, Right. And I was fortunate enough to have one. But to keep that contract, you were held liable and responsible. You had to go out and do, 6 or 7 guest poses a year.
Right.
You had to show up in shape. You couldn't get in any trouble. You had to just be a good representative, and that's what taught me to be able to learn how to stay out of the streets and protect yourself.
Yeah. Now, people don't realize how important landing a cover on a Weider magazine was like you made it. I mean, at that point, when you're on the cover, you're a success. That was validation back in the 90s and 2000s because there was no internet. When you got that first Flex cover, do you remember where you first saw it and what you think feelings are seeing it?
I remember the first Flex cover, but I want to say my first cover and my first photo shoot ever after I ended up turning pro was with JM.
Right.
The NPC with JM, And I flew down, there to spend some time with Jimmy and Jim and JM. He had shot me in the studio,
right.
And then I came out on the NPC News. He put me on the cover. That was amazing, and because they cover the Nationals.
Of course, yeah, but that's not the same as the newsstand. You know what I mean?
No. When I hit the newsstand, it was a cover by Flex. It was a Flex magazine. It was by Chris Lund.
Right.
And I don't know if you ever shot with Chris Lund or be in the presence of Chris Lund, but he's amazing, from England.
Yep.
And it came out. As a matter of fact, I still have that. 1992 Flex magazine. That came out on every newsstand around the world, and I was like, wow, And I knew at that point that this is another whole thing.
Yeah.
The world is watching everything you do, Kevin. Everything you say, everything you do, the world is watching you, you know. And as great as it was as a blessing, it was also, you know, almost probably like a curse, because you lose all of your privacy, you know, and you have the world just digging into you, and everybody just grabbing at you. And, you know, moving forward, Dave, I mean, yes, I mean, I'm so grateful to have turned pro and everything, but, you know, they say greater the sacrifice, greater sacrifice, greater the reward.
Yeah.
But I remember, man, like, you know, preparing for shows and not going to parties and not being able to go out with my friends, and, you know, missing family reunions and Thanksgiving and Christmas. Sure. And I'm locked away in a hotel room, and I just can't do what I used to do, because I'm held accountable for not myself, but I'm a Weider athlete. If I do something, it's gonna tarnish the whole reputation of the industry. And I had to think about all those things and how I wanted to carry myself. And you know, so that was I'm glad I got involved in the system like that, because it taught me a lot to the day leading up to business and carrying myself now. So
did you, I mean, I know what happens when you're successful, people flock all around you because everyone's got a deal for you, everyone wants you involved, they're gonna make you $1 million. Were you naive? Did you get scammed a lot by people, or were you pretty good in business in terms of making the right decisions?
No, I didn't get scammed at all, because my whole career I was underneath the Weider. For 14 years, I had a contract with Joe Weider.
Right.
So I would only shoot with his photographers.
Okay.
I would only go to, you know, interview with his magazines. Nobody else could come close to Weider athletes. You know, it was an umbrella protection that, you know, he paid us every month to be there, and in return, you know, he was there for us and put us on a global stage. And, you know, we had to show up and you know, in shape at the Mr. Olympia and just present ourselves. So I think that umbrella protection, it was great for us, and that's what's missing today. You know, one of those things, you know, that's really, really missing.
Well, it's fend for yourself today. There's really no magazines. There's no exclusives anymore. You're your own business right now. You have to incorporate Kevin Levrone nowadays and do your own thing, or you don't make money. And that's, you know, it's on the athlete now, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you know, you have a Mr. Olympia, he wins the Mr. Olympia now, and he has to figure things out on his own.
Sure.
You know, he's not under a contract that's going to hold him liable, unless it's a supplement contract. And I can guarantee you, the supplement contracts aren't as strict as the IFBB Weider contracts. You know what I mean?
Much lower too.
Yeah, definitely.
What was like a Kevin Levrone making back in the day at his heyday from Weider?
You want me to really say that?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
It was in the six figures.
Oh, it was good. Okay, so you did very well then. That's excellent.
Yeah, it was well in the six figures. And the also thing about that is, you know, we had a contract, and that means that you got to show up for shoots, you know, be in shape.
Right.
We had to do 6 guest appearances. I remember all this. And you had to sign up to do the Mr. Olympia. Now, any videos that you make, that's all your money. Photos, that's all your money.
Right.
Any materials that you wanted to sell on your own, that's all your money. You know, so Joe didn't stop you from going out doing personal appearances or whatever you wanted to set up on your own, you know. So that platform was laid out for you to be successful as a business person.
Did you get free pages in the magazine, or was that not part of your contract?
Yeah, that's another thing. When I came out with my training video, Full Blown, you know, and I learned this previously, Joe would give you a contract, and then also, it wasn't like free pages. These pages were added onto your contract. You want a full page, you want a half page, or whatever it is. You know, I mean, he would do all these things to help you market your business. You know, Joe Weider taught us how to be businessmen. And if you look at all the bodybuilders, you know, you look at Lee Labrada, you look at Lee Haney, you look at Arnold, you look at, you know, Lou Ferrigno, Sean, myself, you know, he taught us that whole business thing, that don't take it personal, you know. And I got to credit this to you know, back then, you know, Wayne DeMilia was like the head judge, you know what I mean?
Right.
And sometimes I would ask Wayne questions about like, well, how come this and how come that, as far as placings, and Wayne would say, listen, he says, listen, and I never forget this, and I got to give Wayne credit for this, he says, listen, he says, you got to look at this as a business. Don't take it personal. Look at it as a business.
Right.
You can go on these tours. You can make a boatload of money. So what? You got second at the Olympia. So now the chance to go on a tour and win everything. Right. Dorian's not going on these tours, Kevin. And I said, yeah. He goes, don't take it personal. He goes, all these guys take it personal and they want to complain and they don't come on a tour. He goes, look at it. You could sweep this whole thing and take that money and save that money and do what you need to do. Turn yourself into a business and use this outlet to make money, because that's what bodybuilding is all about. He was like, if you spend all this time dieting just to do one show, you're already in shape. So why not go the tour, do the tours?
Yeah.
And he was completely right. And at that moment, I said, it's okay if I don't win the Mr. Olympia. I'm going to win everything else and be one of the greatest bodybuilders ever. And I'm glad I took that advice and stopped taking things personal,
How many pro shows did you wind up winning, all told? 20?
22. I think it's 23 pro wins.
You had the record for a long time until, obviously Dexter.
Yeah, I'm the third most winning IFBB pro in history. Number one is Dexter. 2 is Ronnie Coleman. 3 is me. 4th is Vince Taylor.
Right. And the funny thing is you didn't compete that many years either. So
no, I only competed 14 years.
Yeah.
And 7 shows every year for 14 years straight.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a lot of shows within each year, but it wasn't a lot of years, because like Dexter's been competing for 3 decades.
Yeah.
I mean,
I walked off stage when I was 35 years old.
Yeah. Which is smart. Yeah. You left with your health. Now, let me
and
ask you a question.
68 pro shows, man.
Yeah, no, that's a lot. That's a lot. Well, back in the day, you guys all competed a lot. I mean, Milos has 1 million shows under his resume. Flex does. All you guys hit a lot of shows. Nowadays, they just don't do that anymore. And the funny thing is, nowadays, there's more shows to compete at, and guys don't compete as much.
I got 18 second place, man.
That's crazy. Yeah.
That's
Think
a
about
lot.
that. Right? That's nuts. That's nuts.
And now, believe me, every time I got second, I thought I was going to win. Oh, man.
In 92, okay, when you won nationals in 91, and then 92, you were second at the Olympia. In 92, I saw you actually guest pose in Jersey. I think it was one of my first couple shows. You were huge. You were probably 260, 270, 280 maybe. You had enormous legs, Kevin. Your legs were probably your best body part, I'd say.
Yeah.
What happened? How come your legs stopped being such a dominant body part for you? Because I mean, they were superlative when you first came out.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I was doing seated rows. I don't know what year it was, and I pulled out my lower lumbar. I pulled my back out so bad, and I hurt myself, man, and I just couldn't squat.
Really? I didn't know that, huh?
A lot of shows, yeah.
Wow.
I was doing seated rows. I remember training with Ronnie Adams at my gym, and I had to stack on 300-pound doing rows, and I pulled my back, and I couldn't squat. I just couldn't even squat. I don't know if you ever pulled out your lower lumbar before.
No, thank God.
It got real hot. My side of my left quad got real hot. I couldn't stand up. I had to ice that thing for about 2 weeks. And it was a pretty serious injury, man.
For the rest of your career, you had trouble squatting because of that?
No. The other times, Dave, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, because I knew that I had gassed it. When I say gassed it, I knew that there were moments when I could turn it up and gas it. Right. And say, I'm going to go all out, right? And I stepped on stage, and I felt like I got ripped off. And I said, what's the point of gassing it when I can halfway gas it and still place, in the top 5? Right. So at that point, the last time I gassed it was 2000. Gotcha. And I got second.
Yeah.
After that, and if you look at my legs in 2000.
They came up. Yeah.
They were big.
Yeah.
I did what I had to do, But then they gave me second, and then I was like, you know what? I'm not going to kill myself to win the Mr. Olympia show no more. I'm not going to take it to that level. Right. And I didn't.
Yeah, because, I mean, People who never saw you in person in the early 90s, your legs were nuts. They were just crazy. The separation you had and the size. And when I came up there even in 96, we were squatting together. I told the story on the radio show. I mean, you had only been training 6 weeks. I'd only gone back, and you were squatting 6 plates on each side with me, easy.
I had 1992 Night of Champions was by far the most shredded I've ever been in my entire life. I had feathers on the side of my hamstrings. My back hamstrings, when I went back to do a leg curl, I remember doing leg curls and stuff in the gym with Scott.
Yeah.
When I would do a leg curl, they had cross striations in the muscles. And it was crazy. And I had cross striations up through the center of my quads, like a bow and arrow going like that.
Sure.
I was just so ripped and shredded. But to get like that, I was on death row, man.
Yeah. You know what? I think because things came easy to you, when you had to suffer, it scared you. Almost.
It did. It did.
Whereas most people, that was normal for them. Most people had to suffer like that all the time. So.
But to take that skeleton look like that on stage, like I remember how I felt at the Night of Champions.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't think I was going to make it. Like every muscle fiber from my waist down was just going like this, like twitching, Yeah. And when I got back to the hotel room, it was just, and I won the show. I mean, I got one call out. They put me back.
Yeah.
But I was like, if that's what it takes to win a show, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. We talked about the '96 Arnold earlier when I was there helping you, and you won that show and you beat a really good flex wheeler. It was probably one of the closest Arnold's best. I thought it was one of the best, person versus person Arnolds that we've maybe even ever seen. The people were going absolutely insane there. I mean, the energy in that place was so palpable that it was intoxicating. You win the show by probably, I think it was a 1-point decision or something like that. Obviously, Flex is completely mentally beaten after that show. You guys go to the Olympia later that year. You beat Flex, but you wind up losing to Sean Ray and Dorian. Talk to me about, was that a disappointing Olympia for you?
Yeah, because they wouldn't put me next to Dorian Yates.
Why do you think that was?
Because
was it the business of bodybuilding again that Wayne mentioned?
I think it was political. They didn't want me standing next to him because I think I could, I had some. What year was this? 94?
96.
That was the year he tore his bicep, right?
He tore his bicep in 94, but he was hurting things
off
every year.
Was he off at that show? Yeah, he was off, right?
He was off. A lot of people thought he looked good, but I think, that bicep was never normal after that. So, the front double always looked a little weird.
But if you notice during that, and I remember doing that whole prejudging, they would never put me next to him.
No.
They kept me away from him, and I didn't know why, but they just would never compare me to him. And this is why when I went to go do the pose down, it was my opportunity to get next to him. Yeah. And show, the comparisons. But
was it frustrating? I know wasn't just you. I know Sean was doing a lot of complaining back then too. Was it frustrating those years where Dorian was just dominating year after year after year?
No, it wasn't frustrating.
No.
If it wasn't for Dorian Yates, I would have never pushed myself the way that I did. Gotcha. He beat me. Well, he won. He was Mr. Olympia in 1992. I got second. Right. That was a great honor, and I knew that he didn't beat me by that much. Yeah. Like, he didn't blow me out of the water. I don't think so. Not his first year. No. But then all of a sudden, when he came back, he just started growing and growing and growing.
93 was crazy. Yeah.
And and he got this nickname of the Shadow. He would disappear, wouldn't say much, just go back to England and train. And you would just see these pictures come out in the magazine, Flex magazine, a couple of weeks or a month before the show. And I'm like, damn. And Dorian Yates raised the bar for me. Like I said, if it wasn't for him, I would have never really started training heavier and growing because, right. On my first Olympia, I was almost 230. Then I ended up getting, in my 40s competing and stuff like this. Yeah. And it was because of Dorian Yates. And being a part of that era, I mean, Dorian Yates raised the bar for all of us. I mean, he was just an amazing athlete, you know, because he had overcome all. Even though people say Dorian didn't have the greatest genetics, but let me tell you something. He had enough genetics to do what he needed to do, and to build a back like that and everything. So he had genetics. He just didn't flow like we did.
Right.
He had him in other areas to where, you know, he had that grainy look. Dorian never had any cross striations, but he was just a rock on stage, you know, and he was solid when he posed. Like I said, you know, I tell people all the time, you know, as well as Lee Haney, you know, but Dorian Yates was he was a man's champion.
Yeah.
You know, and
good.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, do you think that had Haney come back in '92, where would he have placed between you and Kevin first, second? Would Haney have won? Would he have been third?
I think Lee Haney would have won.
You think he would have won that year?
Yeah, because Lee Haney competed at 240.
Yeah.
On stage. You know, I think Dorian was in his 30s, probably.
Yeah, I don't remember what he was that first year.
I was probably 230, but
so
Dorian
you think Haney would have snagged
230.
one more Olympia probably then?
He could have won, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
What about if Dorian wasn't injured? How would Dorian have done at the '98 Olympia when Ronnie and Flex were up there first and second? Could Dorian have won that show?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. I think he would have won again.
Wow. Okay.
I do because, like, I know what Dorian Yates looked like then, and I knew what Ronnie looked like at that show.
Yeah.
You know, and Ronnie, you know, Ronnie wasn't light years ahead of nobody like when he won his first Mr. Olympia.
No.
It wasn't like, you know, you could say, hey, it could have went either way between him and Flex.
Yeah.
You know, but when Dorian Yates came out on stage, I mean, Dorian was in his 256, 258.
Yeah.
I mean, the dude was just hard and just crazy looking. That back lat spread was out of the world, you know?
Yeah. No, it was very hard to beat him from behind.
It was ridiculous, you know? And even though Coleman was where he was, but we didn't have that muscle development at that grainy look back then. We were just looking pretty, you know? But Dorian came out with that whole grainy, dry look, man, was just insanity. And Weinberger was behind him, and you just knew, man. We knew most of the time that if he's in shape, we're fighting for second.